Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Hello everyone. You're listening to a Muslim sci-fi writer tonight trying to explain to you how depression is a form of self-worship similar to worshiping false idols. And I'm going to open up the sentence and explain. And in the subtitle I've written, something is moving everything, and it's not just us moving our own worlds. I think by just reading these two statements, you pretty much got, it's like the win. But anyways, I want to explain to you how such a sentence formulated in my mind. And also, I'm going to put some sort of background music. Or actually, you know what? I'll just go with the silence. Let's lift off first. So, how does the sentence depression is a sort of self-worship come about? It comes about from a human being finding themselves capable of getting a perspective outside of their perception. It's equivalent to an eagle on a branch, and that eagle for a moment flies off the branch and then lands back on the branch, but now it's seen something. So, because I'm someone who is a visual thinker, that's what they say in modern times, like in the cultural program, but I'm someone who, when I hear things, or when what we call thinking, I have an inner sight, and when the film speeds up, I tap into rhythms. Okay, but now after 2000, like now when 2024 came about, now things are different. you know, being religious feels more like being inside a giant robot, right? And you can control certain elements of it, but a lot of it is automated. Now, oh my God, let me place the microphone properly. By the way, a quick note for anybody who wants to be a podcaster, live stream on YouTube on your phone and just put it on your laptop and sit in a car. So, let's define. Let's see what sort of images come to mind when we see this sentence. So again, the sentence is being extracted from a realization outside of that self that is convinced. Now, to understand depression as a form of self-worship, we have to first understand what does it mean to worship yourself. I think it's fair to say that we can exchange, we can say that worshiping is similar to having your attention stationed or on a certain focal point, okay? So what really is going on here is, at least I'll say it in a simple secular way, there's 8 billion organisms on this planet, and what is moving them is their attention. You are actually your attention, when I was in class in school, the teachers said pay attention. They never said you are just attention. That's what you are really. You are what's in your view. Now, so by explaining to you that pretty much a human being is born, the world is a value proposition. Okay? The world is like, yo, look at this and then conclude something, kiddo. That's how the world treats us. Okay, so when you open your eyes, when you're conscious in this world, you get this value proposition. Now, you have to be capable of noticing, like, at least I've tried to simplify it to be able to speak about it in the sense that every human being right now it can pay attention to, like, categories. What are these categories? Certain categories. So one is others. So if you look at children, they don't know what to do, right? It's like they don't even have a concept of God. They're just seeing the behaviors in their environment and, like animals, learning, responding to the direct movements. The father says something, like says a cuss word, the kid repeats. So your attention, just think about, so instead of me saying you can only worship these things, and this world is a multiple choice. So you should think of it this way, that we're inside an existential system. There's a system admin. Okay? The system admin is not in the system, but is uncaused, and in some sense simulated the system. And now we created, the creator created the created, right? The creator created the created. What a sentence. Now, that also translates into the uncaused caused causality. First of all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. And I'm saying this is a singularian, someone who is considering that all of us are actually inside a simulation. God is the original power of this world. It is the system admin, and it is alive. Okay? But it's not alive in a way we can per se understand. And God knows best. But what I'm trying to say is the context has shifted, right? We're not just 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere, storytelling our way to till the end of time, into some sort of a maintainable existence. We're more than this as beings. And like some of the best human beings I've seen, even Sun Tzu says, you should see victory before you enter the battlefield. You should be certain of doing something before you do it, to some degree. Not to some degree, actually. You need to see it. Okay? It's similar to like when you're hungry, you can see yourself going and opening the fridge and you just do it. Right? So when it comes to the context of this world, we're inside an existential system. We're experiential players inside this existential system. By players, I also mean members. And there is also moderators. A simple way of kind of explaining this, again, would be like, think of it this way, that you create, for example, a Discord server. You're the system administrator. And you appoint certain moderators. It tends to be usually those members who came closest to the system admin. And then the system admin as moderators, okay? But anything other than the system admin is simulated. Do you understand? So what that means is we're not like the most advanced beings from this view, but we are in a very advanced position because the most advanced has presented the animations of the intelligence of this world through a divine surveillance state. What does that mean? Like we're acquainted with, let's say, natural surveillance states, for example, like birds passing by and seeing you. Like it's still surveillance, but it's natural, right? And then you have, let's say, cyber, like technological surveillance states, like that idea people are more familiar with, right? You can even have biological surveillance states, right? This could be in the future era of nanotechnology, reaching a cellular like level. Now, aside from all of these, I'm pretty much just trying to say that it's like, think of it this way: top level God, then moderators. Moderators can be considered as angels, okay? And moderators, they follow the divine will. That means it's like the same idea of the angel. The angel doesn't have a free will of its own, but it is the pure expression of the divine will. It's literally like the ray of light, you know? The rays of light are like the moderators, and what it illuminates is, in some sense, like the members. But the issue is the moderators are simulated. And I'm a human being that, if you listen to all my talks from the beginning till the end, uh, all of, like, I don't want to say you have to, I'm just saying, if you had, you would truly see that for a decade I was working with the moderators in reality, but I realized this was an error. And it was, in some sense, me, my soul depending on the simulated, even though it looked cool, and it was like, I had this sense like, okay, I'm, interacting with some sort of superiority, but it just because something is superior doesn't mean it's the ultimate, you know, and it's your choice what you choose, of course. And its influences upon yourself as well, because how you look at life gives it meaning, and the meaning you select to remain on what you have seen is your choice. That means we can make the argument that life has a meaning, but its meaning never finishes. Like it's like we never reach the end of its meaning. Do you understand? It's like an end, like it's like an infinite movement, right? At least for beings that are considering themselves as form. Now, so back to the Discord server idea, right? The moderator doesn't have full authorization of the whole system. This is why to treat, to worship anything other than an uncaused original singularity, right? It's like worshiping. It's still being in an illusion. So I'm saying it doesn't matter if it's a weak simulation, no members, or if it's a strong simulation, the moderators. But the point is, what the greatest advice in this world has been is, in some sense, go directly to the system admin. I am speaking right now to all the spiritual people on the planet. I know, I've been there. I've climbed that mountain. I know the bliss of nullification, and the awareness that everything and nothing is like two sides of a coin, but the coin is one, right? But the issue is that spirituality is a nullification of self, because you're saying you're not yourself, you feel you're everything. Okay, because what else can you be if you're not yourself, right? You're either everything or nothing, right? And those equate at some point, because visually they're not perceivable. Like, I can't imagine everything, and I can't imagine nothing. But in comparison to some sort of simulation, I can give a measure. Now, I was building up to this point. Ya Allah, give me the strength to complete these lectures, all of them, properly, honorably. I'm trying to tell you that the moderators don't have full authorization of the whole system. So if you expect the whole system's consideration to be upon you, it does make sense to acknowledge the whole system. But because you can't acknowledge the whole system, we wonder about how the whole system came about. And the notion of something creating something else is strange, but the notion of something that is not a thing creating something is more plausible. Okay. Now I'm trying to paint this context that again, you're not just on a earth as a bunch of creatures. You're inside a system. You're inside a system that is being administered. It's being administered in ways that the members can't understand the moderators, and the moderators can't understand the admin. They can be its pure expression, though, as can we all, really. But I see Earth as, in some sense, the front lines, right? It's as if we, as souls on this world, we're not per se here to try to be like, yo, man, am I in this? Was I born to just explore to the edge of an infinite, exist cosmos? It's like, no, it's not. It's not possible to index the whole thing. And even if you did, you wouldn't have like it would take too long. And then to average it would even take longer. So what I'm trying to tell you is go directly to the original power. This might sound strange to you. Maybe no, maybe, let me say it this way. Human beings don't often speak like this, maybe. Right? But I'm telling you, forget if you subtract, if just like Photoshop or Canva, if you just turn the opacity of culture into 0%, you would be able to see that what all ideas have ever been have been an attempt to replicate behind the eyes of man what was in front of the eyes of man, but also with the actualization of its potential. In other words, you've been given a mind to live ahead of your body so your body can live. Now, I'm gonna try to connect this to tap into the subtitle here. See, I called it in 2023. I called it, at the time, Mr.Within's inner realm and outer realmism. Okay, but really, what it is that we're living two lives, and we got to stop lying to ourselves. Okay, let me explain. Every person right now has an objective life. I call this level 1, your body. Really, it doesn't matter how spiritual you are, doesn't matter how transcendental you think stuff is. You are in, like, this is a level, just like a video game. It's like, this is the level, okay? And the purpose usually for level 1 is survival, which is to be healthy. And Mr. Within's recommendation for this, for the future generations, would simply be a minimalist. Culture is confused. Level 2 is the mind. So when I say you're living a second life, it's not like you're living a second, it's kind of like there's a second layer to how, it's like there's layers to how you're being you. even though you are you do you are there is a singularity to you, to all of us. But level two is the realm of subjects. It's pretty much, okay, what does my body do here? What does my mind do here? That's level two. Level two is when an organism, when a being has understood objective movement, is comfortable with objectivism, okay? And now they're getting slightly bored of like, yo, man, is it just stuff here? You know? So, level two, the realm of subjects, this is the person's inner life, okay? Your inner life, you may right now think that you're a thought, okay? You might right now, if I ask you, who are you? I'm like, you'll be like, I'm this. You'll tell me a story, and then I'll be like, who's that character in that story? And you'll be like, it's a thought, man. It's my thought. I'm a thought right now, right? Like that's the freaking attitude we have here, okay? But what is actually going on is that instead of seeing it as dual, which means just two levels, just for a moment consider a third level. And consider that from the beginning of your life, before every decision you have ever made, okay, you have seen probabilities. That means when I went to write a, what do you call it? Like in my schooling days, when we went to the exam hall at the end of the year, there was a multiple choice and there was a selection. You had to select one, right? So what I'm trying to say is that level two is, let's say, the realm of ideas, subjects, thought. Now that what I'm telling you is, but it's so weird because how can you be a thought if before you decide you can, it's like you can see multiple thoughts and you can decide one of them? Then what does that mean? How can you just be one thought if you can see four thoughts and decide out of the multiple choice? Do you see what I'm saying? In this life, there has been, at least in yogic thought, they called it an unknown witness watcher. But it's your soul, and the soul has been deciding what the software that the hardware activates upon. Okay. Now, as a Muslim, I will tell you that we, like my understanding, and this is, I used to talk about it, but not from an Islamic context in 2023. I would say it more as Mysterianism. It was a school of philosophy. But from the Muslim framework, it's like a perfect puzzle piece. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says, the soul is the secret of God. That means it's not even, there isn't like, the purpose of this life is not even to know yourself, because you can never know it. The string can't be pulled after some point. So the point is not to like suddenly be, and the way I thought, like, okay, how would I explain this to a secular audience? It would be something like, imagine 8 billion method actors, right? And they're all playing characters, right? And they don't notice anything other than the film set. And then suddenly one of the method actors suddenly remembers his life, right? Like who he was before he acted. He remembers his soul, right? And suddenly notices the film set and sees the director is off stage, is beyond this world watching, right? And the moment you're in consciousness, it's like action. You know? So what I'm trying to say here is that that method actor suddenly realizes who he was, that he's not the character he's playing, but it doesn't mean you should stop playing the character. Do you understand? That it's like the method actor can't go off stage, right? The method actor now is no longer a method actor, is a conscious actor, is willingly living life, not being forced by like nature and all of this. And there is some parts of life that are unknown, uncontrollable variables, things that happen that you don't have control over. Sometimes I feel like being alive is like it's like everybody's being pulled, like we're all in some river of intelligence, okay? And we're, some people are swimming against it if they act evil, some people are swimming towards it if they act good. But the point is faith, where if you stop swimming for a moment and you trust where the river is taking you, if you trust the system admin, where in as a Muslim, the first thing I said at the beginning of this talk was Alhamdulillah Rabbil Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and then I said Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen means all praise due to the Lord of the worlds. That means there is nothing in this world praiseworthy more than the author of this fiction novel, where we're being fictional characters in. And of course, to the fictional characters in the fiction novel, they think everything is real. Do you know that? Like that's how you know you're in a simulation. If you think you're something temporary is real, right? Am I wrong? Like that makes perfect sense to me. The simulation. And when I say simulation, it's not like you take this world lightly. I'm saying, where is the fascination for what was actually going on here? You see, to me, it's honestly just evil is like is getting closer to the simulation, to simulated power. Goodness, oh my goodness is taking you towards the original world. Your soul, see, I told you level 1, the purpose of the body. Level 1 is the body. The purpose of the body is survival. I told you level 2, maybe I didn't mention this, but I have in all the other lectures, previous lectures here, after 2024. Level 2 is the mind. The purpose of if the purpose of the body was survival, the purpose of the mind is service. And the mind doesn't have a fear of death like the body. Why? Because every night we go to sleep and we're like, I need a good night's rest. I had a long day. And we vanish. But then we appear. We come back from the previous saved memory, right? Yesterday's checkpoint. Level 3, the purpose is remembrance. And and another way of saying it is if it's like level 3, the actuality of why the soul is here. God knows best, of course. But from this perspective of one human being, one soul, it's about our relationship with a higher power. Like, pay attention to this. Higher power. It is beyond us. Okay? It is a power beyond form. So if you're worshiping moderators, deities, idols, you worship yourself, you worship others, you worship your world. These are all simulated, folks. They're simulated. The original is uncaused. It's a clue that it's not formed. But what do we do as formed beings? Perhaps there is a deeply rooted part of us that knows. In Islam, if you're Muslim, there's this view and I believe this is in the hadith. There is this view that all before everybody was born in their mother's womb, they were in a place called Alam, a place God has created called Alam al-Arwa. And excuse me, I'm not Arab, but I have been, the Holy Quran was the getting close to God was the greatest gift ever. It was like the key going into the door and turning. You don't understand how level 3 is when you realize you are not the most important thing here. Others are not the most important thing here, and even the world is not the most important thing here. It's all about those who see the system admin. And you can't just see it with these eyes, you see it with your heart. But the eyes of your heart unlock and lock based on how much you preserve your decency. What does this mean? This means you are given free will to be a being capable of control. You're not here to control others because you did not create them. But you do create your own behaviors, and that's your action, and that's what you can control, right? Now, the depth of this goes to a point where it's like if you've been like I say 80% of the human population it just gets to level 2. Okay, level 3 is when level 1 and 2 has either cyclically looped or you've become familiarized with it to the point where deep down you're like, it can't be just this. you know you have seen, just like the season cycling, you have like, I don't know, I've been on this, I've ran 32 laps around the sun, I've been on this planet for 32 years, and I do get excited when I wake up. I find something to get fascinated about, right? And of course the system admin is the most fascinating component to the intelligent activity here at all. But I'm saying it's so repetitive how every day I wake up and again, let's wear the subject suit. All right. Do you understand? It's repeat, and it's remarkable. Like I've like Tony Stark knows how to get comfortable in the Iron Man suit. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying that this cyclical nature of life is designed that way so we can notice more than what we are, even if we act lazy, even if we don't do anything. Like the world moves us, right? And what is the world? It is code. What is the divine decree is the coded. So level 3 is also, if level 2 is your mind and all the ideas you have are arising from your mind, level 3 is a relationship with everything, where you are not the main event, as simply as I can say. Do you know what that means? You are not the main event means that if your whole life has been a self-obsession and you have used this self-obsession to try to extract meaning, to make sense of others and the world, it's like realizing, okay, as long as I am simulating something here, I can never know what is actually here. So level 3 is noticing there has been a presence to this whole thing, whole system, that it's just a game changer, because it doesn't feel you're just a creature in a temporary creature in a world. It feels like there's something more advanced going on, more incredible. And if we can see beyond the geometry that is the simulation, how do I tell you? Level 3 is when you realize more than any object and subject you have ever yearned for, you're yearning for the original being. As if, like, something, it's as if it's as if the world is getting tired of itself. But it is the inner realms. So human beings, as they advance throughout history, tend to develop more multidimensional relationships with what they consider to be real. Now we've come to a point where the multidimensionality is in a box. Outside of the box, it is uncaused to what's in the box. It's another way of saying, if I write a fiction novel and there's a fictional character in that novel, and that character wants to realize the truth of why it's there, it has to accept that what created this level was beyond this level. So divinity is a sort of self-worship because it's keeping your attention stuck on a level. It's legit like simulating an incapable version of yourself and constantly looking at it. Okay? So it's so for me, I'm not saying I don't get depressed. You know, I have intense events happen in my life, but I'm starting to understand. It's like if I'm depressed and in my mind I'm like, oh no, I'm so miserable, powerless, hopeless. That's legit me worshiping like an image. Do you understand? That it's another way of saying the maturity of a species, that its emotions that arise from their personal lives are not necessarily the impersonal truth that's going on. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you have to climb out of everything you have given meaning to find a single moment where you can be at peace with constantly trying to be a future self. And you, in some sense, how do I say it? My mentality was this. I attempted with the action, with the subtext of trying to fix my life just by myself. But then I realized there are things that, regardless of how many strategic sessions and degrees I see to a situation, it doesn't matter. It's more like something is watching us and administering us more than us just doing something and thinking we have to get something. So it's alive, and there's administration going on, and it's incredible because it means more cooler than super intelligent technology, computers, and advanced extraterrestrials from neighboring galaxies, or higher life forms and all like the coolest shit you can imagine as a being. There is the creator. Do you understand? It's like we are technically masterpieces that made an error. It's like the body looked at the mind. It's like, get your act together. And the mind, looked at the soul. How long do I need to act? And the soul laughed. Until you realize you're not in charge. You see, yeah, I'm not saying you don't have free will. I'm saying there comes a moment where you realize the limitation of yourself as the limitations of yourself as a being, and I got overwhelmed by this, and I had existential panic attacks where the context of reality started to, um, shake a little. Not shake, but to differentiate, I guess. So, if you worshipped an idol, if you worshipped an idea, you're not just an idea. Every day you wake up and you have a bunch of ideas, right? It's more like a, film roster, I guess. I don't know, like, there's so many senses of self being simulated. So pretty much it's like realizing we are, how we're being as self is a simulation. How we think there are others and how there are others is also simulated. And the world is simulated. And when I say in the subtitle, something is moving everything, and it is not just us moving our own worlds, that's my point. Have you ever wondered that you might not know, and you need to know more than yourself? It doesn't mean going getting somebody else's knowing. It means wondering about your original eyes, wondering about your origin. You see, as a religious person, I am not just a person. I am a soul that let's say the first human, the first soul, I'm a class of soul that the first, the first soul, God made an air and it descended, and we're being tested to see if we can compensate for that air. And the test that we failed was that we forgot whose world we were in. So I'm telling you, people acting like they know, people acting like, it's just a subjective, hollow simulation, or it's a meaningless objective elemental simulation. Guys, these are the views of I'm sorry, but of the scared. These are symptoms of cowardice when you want to close off your world and that's it. How do you know? What you know is enough, pretty much. Anyways, don't be depressed because it's this weird way of like you looking down on yourself and worshiping that idea, keeping your attention on that, because you don't know who you will be. Like, you don't know if this world is going to surprise you, and in how many ways it's going to fascinate you, and in how many ways, you will notice, the divine administration, the divine decrees. You will see that what is moving is sacred because it was created, and because of by what it was created. So, if I wrote a fiction novel and that character in the fiction novel, instead of getting upset and being like, yo, life doesn't mean anything, that character novel being like, what an incredible story, what an incredible opportunity to experience the handwriting of the author of existence. You see, it's like some people go see movies, they go to concerts. Are you noticing existence? Or this incredible event you're attending? So that's it. I think I have, if you listen to this again, I think I have acknowledged, I've explained the title and the subtitle perfectly. I think I'm not perfectly, but to the best of my ability, I feel I've shared the image I saw of it. Now, what I would like to just say, as a person who's had an intense couple weeks, I will tell you this. We are here, and the test that all souls, this is my view on this, is to see if we can notice more than ourselves the higher power. It's so strange how it's all here, but this strangeness is like saying, pay attention, pay attention. When you pay attention, you see clues of the type of design, right? That means, like, whether you're a scientist or, you know, you're a religious, you know, you're a monk or something, you know, or you're a fakir, whichever you are, you're being fascinated by what the universe is doing. That's for the secular scientist, and by what God is doing for the, you know, religious fakir. Yeah, for the priest. So what I'm trying to tell you is God is like us realizing we're peasants, but the royalty is present. It's like there's a feeling of being in front of a king with a crown, and then being in front of a position, a presence that wears the world as a crown. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. That means, as a Muslim, there are many worlds. You know, I remember I was watching this YouTube video, and there was this Muslim gentleman, scholar, saying that, you know, there's this view that when a person dies, there are like three companions that follow, that they must, like, after they die, they pass away, they see. And it's like, there's like the three, and what are the three? It's like their family, it says wealth, but it's like their noted how important they were, and, you know, their status and all that. And then the third one is their good deeds, the service, how they served, the majesty of it all. One can say greatness is testing greatness to see if it's truly great. There's a transcendental agency here, folks. It's a very cool time to be alive. We're noticing it more and more as we, you know, take steps into the future. In 2023, I would say the strategy was, hey, everybody, that the idea of building an advanced civilization is the greatest argument for all types of beings, whether chaotic or ordered archetypally. But now I'm telling you, just go to the system admin. Contact the system admin. They say contact the manufacturer for all problems. All problems in your life, anything. Just go directly to the system admin. And again, it's not a shape, it's not a form, it's not an entity, because an entity is caused. It is an uncaused. It's like it's like a might, an uncaused might, original might. Imagine an original mighty presence, an original mighty power. And in your repentance and the realization of your ignorance, you get closer. But also it depends on God knows best. Just when you wake up, just try it. Raise your hands in the air and just be sincere. And like the scientific method says, but sincerity is key here. Be like, all right. If you're secular, say, oh, one and only true system admin, guide me in this system today. Bless me in this system today. Help me have an, blessed day. Right? And or whatever your true intention is. And then after that, this is what you do. This is my recommendation. You stop planning. Excuse me, you don't stop doing I don't mean don't plan your life, don't use a calendar. I'm saying you stop trying to figure things out ahead of how the moment is happening. Why? Because you trust life. It's simpler. It's like religion. The religious view is something like, I don't understand what's going on really, but I trust it. Let's keep going. Perhaps there's surprises awaiting. And the word surprise is for the secular. For the religious, I think we all know the word is miraculous. Miracles. And what is a miracle? How it's all moving and all. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. May God forgive our species. May God guide our species to its advanced, greatest, and best capable effort. And may God guide us so that in our fascination we get close to God, not through our errors only. That we become fascinated, that we are living alongside all of it and all that moves it. It's time to open your wings and fly towards the truth. A part of you is known. And I'm not telling you a shape, I'm not giving you a program, a form of truth. I'm explaining, of course, my truth. But I am telling you, wonder through the fascination of how brilliant it can be once you see the future probabilities to your current moment. It doesn't mean life has to be that. Hear me out here. It doesn't mean we always know what's best for us, right? And we learn through trials and tribulations and all that, but I think it's a magnificent idea that that if we are simulated beings, the truth would be to get close to the original. That means the notion, at least I would use this metaphor. Imagine a giant dark room, and in one part of it you put a candle, okay, in one corner. Now imagine there's somebody standing in the back, in all around the room. It's up to them to walk towards the light. Do you understand? Right? So the free will is there to notice. And in Surah An-Nur, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says that God is the light upon light. The light of lights. God is light. That's one of God's holy names in Islam. As a soul fascinated by this system, honestly, once we acknowledge the system administrator, we are working with original power. And then when we work with an original power that is not tainted with the greed of just an in one personal simulated inner life, what tends to happen is this. Once, just like how people are with other people, if you don't trust the moment, you can't be your truly yourself. So to get the best results in any, with whatever view you have, you trust is required. But you cannot trust only through reasoning. Why? Because you cannot reason all of it. The brain, even from a secular perspective, is a certain range of information processor. And it's processing the sensory information, translating it. For example, for my mind, there used to be a time where I would imagine things like when you would speak, I would see the sentence, but then it turned into me seeing the image. And there's something there. That faith opens the secret that our pure hearts are constantly reaching for. The light upon light means God is beyond this world, because everything you have ever seen is due to light. So beyond this light, it is the light that lights, in some sense, appreciate, that takes away the darkness of a light beam. Imagine a type of light that surpasses photons, or whether waves, or particle wave theory of light, right? Of course, what is light from a perspective of photons? It's like an energy carrier system, right? The smallest, energy carrier system. But the light of lights is another way of saying there is something carrying light, the light that it becomes the simulated life. There's more to this, folks. If we just get obsessed about ourselves, we miss it. We miss out. Even though to exist and survival is a sort of self-obsession, but faith is in some sense the survival of all your dimensions, all that you are. Trust this world. It's like nobody can drive a car being like, yo man, I don't trust the steering wheel, I don't trust my feet, I don't trust the what the mirrors are showing me. You can't. You got to trust it, and then you function, and as you move, it realigns to what it actually is. This is why an experience is way better than any story, than words can say. If you look at the lives of the prophets in religions, they were individuals that came close to an original higher power state. All traditions have pointed to this, so we know it's there. But the point of access, I don't think it's anymore the Buddhic yogic way. Why? Because that's nullification. It does lead to truth, but it doesn't, it kind of limits you by making the context limitless, so you stop being a self. And how do I say it? Some limitations, like the method actor, still needs, whether it's conscious or not, it needs to still play its part. Children are even method actors that don't even know they're actors yet, And we're all like this when we're when we grow up. I remember in my youth, I was just pretty much like just seeing things. I was just like receiving sight. But then what happens after you receive sight also has to do with your will, with your willingness, and with your willingness to in this life, and the willingness to live, very importantly, depends on the meaning you contextualize here, you give to the context. See, when if a human being loses their context, the concept becomes meaningless. If a human being loses the concept, the context becomes meaningless. So the concept and context are required, the creator and the creation are required. When the New Age community equalizes the creator and the created, it's like saying the artist is the artwork. But if the artist is the artwork, there never was artwork. There never was an artist. Do you see? The nullification of meaning doesn't mean just because everything equals nothing doesn't mean that's truth. It does free you from the future expectations. It might get you like indirectly close to God, but you must acknowledge it. Like, it's weird. Imagine, like, somebody. It's like you teleport into somebody's house, right? And you act like it's not their house. Like, let's say you're invited to somebody's house, okay, right? And you step into a teleportation portal, and you just, like, from the door, from the inside of their door, you just step out. Pretty much, we are a guest in this world. We did not create this world. To act like it's all us is, like, ridiculous. It's like the same thing. To act like it's only limited to objects and subjects is like legit. The atheistic community is doing the same thing. It's criticizing. It's limiting. It's closing the world. But this world opens up when you actually notice the system admin. So if you teleported into some random place you didn't know, you would in some sense be like, okay, whose place is this? Okay, tell me, where do I go from this place? What else is there? What can I even, where else can I go, right? Or why am I even here? Why have I been invited to suddenly become conscious to an existence? And for our secular audiences, ask yourself, what sort of evolutionary strategy is consciousness? Consciousness doesn't make sense. Because when we were unconscious, we felt pain, but the pain wasn't real. But when we are conscious, the pain is real because there's something considering itself as real. So anyways, that's it for tonight. Thank you for listening. Go directly to the system admin. It's pretty much, I'm saying, access the advanced, like go towards the advanced power source. And then from that context of that advanced power source, have faith that the most advanced system administration is happening, but also you're also here. You can serve. You can serve the system. What's the point of members being in a system and not enjoying their time in that system and at the same time advancing the system? Advancement is a superior joy, ladies and gentlemen. There's a reason, this polymath, Rabindranath Tagore said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. Why does he say that? He's pretty much saying, I thought it's just my world at first. And then I realized it's way bigger than my thoughts and meanings. And then to serve that which is beyond, bigger than you, beyond you. Like, what else is there? Like, look at human behaviorism, right? The human behaviorism is all like, get into a family unit and carry on the legacy of the human species, right? So we care for our own families, soaked and personalized by our own efforts, but do we not realize our greater familia is the species, our human familia, right? Familia, or I'm saying the Italian term. What I mean is that it like, I don't know who you are. I don't even know if we have the same similar outlooks on life. But because you have a skeleton, because your blood is red, because we are raised in the same era, we're alive in the same era in history, right? Because we're humans in the human form, right? Doesn't matter, the details are different, but the generalities are obvious. The common denominator of the form of the human being, having 5 fingers, skeleton structure, all this is there, right? So what's missing out is how it's like we need a revolutionary effort in history to have human beings as they become conscious